Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We'll chant chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita, verses 26 to 30.
अथ चैनं नित्यजातं नित्यं वा मन्यसे मृतं तथापि त्वं महाबाहो नैनं शोचितुमर्हसि जातस्य हि ध्रुवो मृत्युः ध्रुवं जन्म मृतस्य च तस्मादपरिहार्येऽर्थे न त्वं शोचितुमर्हसि अव्यक्तादीनि भूतानि व्यक्तमध्यानि भारत अव्यक्तनिधनान्येव तत्र का परिदेवना आश्चर्यवत् पश्यति कश्चिदेनम् आश्चर्यवद्वदति तथैव चान्यः आश्चर्यवच्चैनमन्यः शृणोति श्रुत्वाप्येनं वेद न चैव कश्चित् देहि नित्यमवध्योऽयम् देहे सर्वस्य भारत तस्मात् सर्वाणि भूतानि न त्वं शोचितुमर्हसि.
In the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, we have done the second topic from verse number 11 to 30, which is entitled as Indestructibility of the Atman. Oh, we have not done, sorry. We have done up to 25. 11 to 25 we have done. And we are in this topic, Indestructibility of the Atman. Now in this, from verse 11 to 25, he talks various pointers about Atman. What is your original nature? That is what he first talks about. Because as per Sri Krishna's diagnosis, the reason for our suffering in this world is our attachment to this world, our attachment to this body, mind, intellect complex. We have assumed this false identity, says Vedanta, due to our ignorance of our true nature. Due to the ignorance of our true nature. We do not know who we essentially are. As a result of this ignorance, we have imagined ourselves to be this limited individual, identifying with this body, mind, and intellect. And that creates an imaginary void. And to fulfill that void, our thoughts run towards the world outside. In the initial stage, it's called attachment, then it becomes desire, then all the other modifications happen, and then we get entangled in this world. So when Arjuna got caught up, Sri Krishna analyzes and says that the reason why you are grieving, whereas the wise people do not grieve, is because the wise people have knowledge of their true nature. You do not seem to have the knowledge of your true nature. You meaning all of us. Through Arjuna, he is educating all of us. The reason we are getting caught in this world, suffering, going through ups and downs, is because of our identification with this body, mind, intellect complex. So therefore, he is educating us on what is our true self. Who am I? So first and foremost, we need to understand about ourselves. Then we should understand about the world. Then we will be able to relate with the world properly. So that's what he says. First 6 chapters, he educates us on who am I? What is our real nature? Jiva Swarupa. Then in the 6th chapter to 12th chapter, he talks about the Ishvara Swarupa, the world's nature, the totality's nature. Then he establishes the equation that as the substratum of both the individual and the world, that is Brahman, you are one and the same. So, therefore, we say that you and Atman and Brahman are one and the same. We use the word Atman with reference to the individual. We use the word Brahman with reference to the total. So we saw so many pointers, various pointers about Atma. That is what he was talking about. He said, wise people do not grieve, whereas you are grieving because you do not know about yourself. And then he educates about our true self. In all these shlokas from verse number 12 to 25. So what did he say? He said, Atma is Nitya. It is eternal. It is always existing. It never ceases to be. It was existing in the past. It exists now. It will continue to exist in future. Whereas that is not the case with this body-mind-intellect complex. This is not Nitya. This body-mind-intellect complex is not Nitya. Whereas Atma, our true self, is Nitya, eternal. Then he said it is Satya. Satya meaning independent. This world is Mithya. Mithya meaning dependent. The pots and clay. Clay is Satya. In that example of pots and clay is Satya and pots are Mithya. The various forms and shapes and names are dependent on clay. Clay can exist independent of pots, but pots cannot exist independent of clay. So, similarly, Atma is independent, whereas the body-mind-intellect complex, the entire universe, is Mithya. So, Atma is Satya, the world is Mithya. Then Atma is Sarvagata. Sarvagata means all-pervading. With reference to time, it is eternal. With reference to space, it is all-pervading. There is no place where Atma is not. So therefore, Atma is Sarvagata. Atma is not there means you are not there. Listen, there is no place where you are not there. Sarvagata, all-pervading. And then Aprameya. Aprameya means it is inconceivable. It is not possible to be understood through your buddhi. Atma cannot be understood through your buddhi. Atma is infinite. Buddhi is finite. And then this Atma is Akarta and Abhokta. It is a non-doer. The body, mind, intellect functions enlivened by the Atma. But Atma has no desire to act or has no desire to not act. Understand? So we explained, comparing Atma to petrol in a car. A car cannot move without petrol. No car can move without petrol. Yet petrol has no desire to move or not move. And similarly, the performance of the car depends on the engine, not on the petrol. And the car reaching destination safely or meeting with accident depends on the driver's driving skill. Similarly, the way we live our life depends on how we drive our life using the buddhi. It has got nothing to do with the Atma. Yet, the car, the individual personality will not move without Atma. So Atma doesn't do anything. It simply enlivens. In the presence of Atma, enlivened by the existence of Atma, the pure consciousness, the body, mind, intellect performs actions. So therefore, Atma is Akarta, which means what? You are a non-doer. thinking that you are the doer and you do various actions. If you do selfish, self-centered actions, you gain punya. You experience, pap. When you act selfishly, self-centeredly, you gain pap. So, you enjoy, as it were, the pap. So, you become bhokta. When you consider yourself a doer and then do selfish, self-centered activities, you gain pap and you enjoy or experience pap. You become a bhokta, enjoyer. Similarly, if you consider yourself a doer and do unselfish action, then you gain punya. Now, again, you enjoy punya, you experience punya, you become bhokta. But when you gain this knowledge about yourself and do an action selflessly, without any doership whatsoever, then there is neither pap nor punya. You do not enjoy anything. You remain abhokta. So when you are a non-doer, you are also non-enjoyer. Atma is akarta abhokta. So from that point of view, you have neither punya nor pap. It is madness to think that I am a papi. Also, it is equally madness to think that I am a punyatma. From that point of view. That's why Adi Shankaracharya, apparently, I think he was only 6 or 8 years old when he met his guru. And his guru is asking, who are you? And he chanted this Atma Shatakam, it seems. Mano Budhya Hankara Chittani Naham Nacha Shrotra Jihve Nacha Grana Netre. That Atma Shatakam he chants. And then he says, Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. I am Shiva, the pure consciousness, the auspiciousness, and the truth. He is chanting that to his guru. And in that Atma Shatakam, one line comes, Na punyam na papam na saukyam na dukkham. For Atma, there is no punya, no papa, no saukyam, no dukkha. All this is for the one who identifies with this body, mind, intellect complex. You identify, you suffer. You enjoy. Enjoy meaning both the pap and punya. You don't identify, it's not for you. So therefore, in the first chapter also we pointed out, when he says, Senayoru bhayor madhye ratam sthapayame achyuta. Arjuna is asking Sri Krishna to take the chariot and place it in between both the armies. Pandava army represents the good forces in us. Kaurava army represents the evil forces in us. And evil forces are usually more in number. So they are 100 in number and Pandava army is only 5. Not 100, sorry. 100 Kauravas, 5 Pandavas. And even if you see, Kauravas had 11 battalions, Pandavas had 7 battalions, total 18. So always evil propensities are more in number. Right? So, he says, in both the armies, meaning we need to stand in between both good and evil and deliver. So if you identify and start doing good activity with the thought that I am the doer, then you gain a lot of punya. Punya will also keep you away from the self. So from that angle, when you view, that which keeps you away from the self is negative. You are not supposed to collect more and more punya. You should stand in between punya and pap. Therefore, you should not get involved in unselfish actions nor selfish action. Stand in between and deliver. So that's what is explained in that sloka 21. Take my chariot, place it in between both the armies in chapter 1. So akarta abhokta. We should remember this. So whenever we do any actions, for example, even when I am now talking on this Bhagavad Gita, I should do this without this kartrutva, that I am the doer. I have kartrutva bhav, to that extent I will only develop punya. Or through this, if I want to develop some name, fame, selfish attitude comes, then I will develop path. So, Atma, that is you, your original nature, is akarta abhokta. And though it is enlivening, it has got nothing to do with the outcome. And though in the presence of Atma, the body, mind, intellect, everything functions, it doesn't do anything to Atma. It is unaffected. Why? It is asanga. It is always unattached. It never gets attached. It's the individual who, out of ignorance, assumes oneself to be this body, mind, intellect. From the Atma point of view, Atma never understands oneself to be this body, mind, intellect and attaches. So it remains asanga. You understand? Meaning what? You are asanga, even when you're thinking that you are attached. Even when we are thinking that we are attached and functioning, truly speaking, we are unattached. And it doesn't undergo any change. It is nirvikara. Atma is changeless, nirvikara, and it doesn't have any attributes. It is nirguna. Atma is nirguna. It has no attributes. The sattva, rajas, tamas belongs to the mind, not to the Atma. Atma is nirguna. And then avyakta. It is unmanifest. It is indriya agochar. It is not available for the senses, mind and intellect. It is avyakta. It is unmanifest. And then arupa, formless. It is that which manifests through the body, mind, intellect as a form. But truly speaking, it is formless. Arupa and ajaha. It is unborn. When the body is born, it is not born. When the body dies, it doesn't die. It is amrita. It is ajaha and also it is amrita. Meaning what? You are ajaha, you are amrita. I am ajaha, I am amrita. I am beyond birth, I am beyond death. Why should I identify with this body and think that I am born? And that which is born certainly will die. So the foolishness is we identifying with the body, mind, intellect complex. So with all this knowledge, what will happen? We will not identify with the body, mind, intellect complex. We can remain as a witness to it. And that was another point that he talked about. Atma is Sakshi Chaitanya. It remains a witness. So all this Nitya, Satya, Sarvagata, Aprameya, Akarta, Abhokta, Asanga, Nirvikara, Nirguna, Avyakta, Arupa, Ajaha, Amrita, Sakshi. All this is you. All this is me. All this is all of us. We should understand this. But unfortunately, our understanding about ourselves today is opposite. I don't think myself to be a non-doer. I think I am the doer. I am the enjoyer. Why this is happening to me? Why did I do this? Why did I function like this? Understand that the gunas are functioning. So therefore, in all these beautiful shlokas, starting from shloka number 12 to 25, he gave all these pointers about ourselves. A person who understands the true identity of himself or herself, and thereafter goes about living the life cheerfully, with no fear, no sense of insecurity, that person alone lives. That is what Upanishads say, Gita says, everything says. If you understand the essence taught in the Vedas, through the Vedantic scriptures, Upanishads, which is what is diluted and given in the Bhagavad Gita, then you will live in the present 100%, totally. You then only start living your life. Otherwise, you haven't even started living your life. So therefore, he says, understand your true nature and live. And there is the problem. And then in this, he explained, what happens when a person dies. It's the subtle body that is moved from the gross body to another gross body. What is death? When the subtle body, that is mind and intellect, along with the causal body, the vasanas, has moved from one gross body to another gross body in the medium of pure consciousness. That's called death. So nothing happens to the Atma. So from Atma point of view, there is no loss. Now, if you look at yourself from the body, mind, intellect complex point of view, the subtle body point of view, there is no loss. Because you give up this body and you take up another body. You take up a fresh body. And why do you give up this old body? Because it is no more conducive. Since it's no more conducive, you give up the old body and you take up the new one. That's all. So therefore, you need not fear birth and death also, if you assume yourself to be the individual. And if you really gain the knowledge of yourself and understand that you are Atma, then also there is nothing to fear about birth and death. So, all this is stupidity. That's what he's explaining. So now he comes down a little bit, and from relative point of view, he continues the discussion. From this verse number 26 to 30, the same discussion, but he continues from a little relative angle. Let's chant sloka number 26.
अथ चैनं नित्यजातं नित्यं वा मन्यसे मृतं तथापि त्वं महाबाहो नैनं शोचितुमर्हसि.
He says, in spite of all these explanations given, if you think this, meaning Atma, as constantly being born and constantly dying, even then, O Mahabaho, you should not grieve like this. So now he is saying, he so far spoke about Atma and told Arjuna, you should identify with Atma. Because Atma has no birth, no death, nothing, don't worry. And he explained what happens when a person dies before self-realization, all that. But in spite of all this, if you still think that you are someone who is this body, mind, intellect complex, which is constantly born and constantly dying, isn't it? If you see, every day, what is happening if you analyze? Morning dies, noon born. Noon dies, evening born. Evening dies, night born. Night dies, morning born. In this chain of birth and death, a day is maintained. Similarly, this false ego is maintained through this chain of birth and death as long as the vasanas exist. So there is no problem even from that point of view, he says. If you think this as constantly being born and constantly dying, even then, O Mahabaho, you should not grieve like this. Because you are sitting and grieving. And then where is the problem? Everyone according to their karma, according to their vasanas, they'll have to go. All of us are traveling in this life's journey according to our vasanas. In between we meet. Because you have a little bit of Vedanta vasanas, I have a little bit of Vedanta vasanas. We come together for a while every Sunday morning, 11 to 12. We discuss Vedanta. Then I go my way, you go your way. But then we become close friends. You come to the class and you want to sit next to that fellow only. You look for that fellow. Hey, he's not come today. The whole class you're looking. Is he going to come late? All the time there's so much of attachment. Why should you have that attachment? So he says, even if you think from a very relative point of view, you know, see, our human personality can be looked from a 3C angle. We can call ourselves as 3C personality. What is the 3C personality? Container, content, consciousness. This 3C is you, me, and all of us. Container is the physical body. Content is the mind and intellect. When I say mind and intellect, including vasanas. And then pure consciousness. We are all these three. You know, Lakshmi Narayan, Nandini, Priyanka, all of us are what? 3C personality. It's easy to remember, therefore I'm talking like that. Container, content, consciousness. So what is happening? The container has become old. So what do? You sit and grieve. Would you sit and grieve? Container, purana ho gaya. You throw that, you take a new container, put it in. That's it. So nothing gets lost. So what is there to grieve? From one container, you have shifted it to another container. And it's a new container. So it's also all the more better. Where is the problem? So that's what he's saying. Even in spite of all these explanations that has been given to you so far, Arjuna, if you think that this is constantly being born and constantly dying, even then, oh Mahabaho, oh mighty armed. He's addressing Arjuna as Mahabaho, mighty armed. Mighty armed means you are a human being, first of all, you should be a thinking fellow. You think, if you think, you will not grieve. Like I explained to you, we'll have little sorrow, of course. When someone dies, you should have that emotion of sorrow. There's so much of memory, so many things associated with that person. So you just, from that angle, yes, there's a little bit of missing, but you understand. So that emotion is balanced. It doesn't kind of, topple you. So therefore, he says, you should not be sitting and grieving like this, man. You understand this. Where is the problem? Unnecessarily, you are sitting and grieving. Don't grieve. Next. Shloka number 27.
जातस्य हि ध्रुवो मृत्युः ध्रुवं जन्म मृतस्य च तस्मादपरिहार्येऽर्थे न त्वं शोचितुमर्हसि.
Certain indeed is death for the born, and certain is birth for the dead. Therefore, you should not grieve over the inevitable. What is inevitable? You should learn to endure rather than sitting and grieving like this. He says, Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityuhu. Certain indeed is death for the born. And dhruvam janma mritasya cha. Certain is birth for the dead. As long as the vasanas continue, the cycle of birth and death also continues. As long as you think you are born, you will die. And that continues because the vasanas are there. You will continue. So where is the problem? If this is what it is, you should accept it. Why you want to fight with it? Why you want to think about the impending death now? No animal goes through this. See, at the time of threat, when there is another animal, wild animal confronting this animal, little bit at that point in time, only it is thinking of death. Little fear comes. Supposing the animal escapes, it's not sitting and thinking about the death and worry. That is not what we do as human beings. We sit and worry about our impending death. We even sit and worry as to how many people will come for my cremation. Because I went to so many people's cremation. Hey Baba, I hope when I die also, so many people come. So we are not living our life. We are constantly preoccupied with our death, basically death. The uncertainty. See, the one thing that is certain is uncertainty. So when you understand that uncertainty is certain from this relative angle, why would you identify with it? If you identify with it, then you will be going up and down, up and down. That's all he says. Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityuhu dhruvam janma mritasya cha. Do not identify with this. This is inevitable part. If it is inevitable, what you should do? You should just accept. Not fight with it. Not resist it. If you resist, you will suffer. That's why he says, all this is going on and on and on. Birth, death, birth, growth, disease, decay, death. Birth, growth, disease, decay, death. That's how it goes. In fact, see, in other words, everything is in a constant flux of change. Another name for the world is change. Another name for the world is change. By the time I say now, it has already become then. Before even I complete the word now, it becomes then. You understand? When you see an object, it is changing. But in your perception, you don't see it. But when you see it over a period of time, you will see the change in that object. But that change did not happen after a few days. As you are seeing it, it is changing. It was not visible. But for a thinker, even though to the eyes it is not visible, for a thinker it is very clear. All these are in a constant flux of change. Since from the relative point of view, the container is supposed to be changed. Who said it will be always the same? I don't know how many of you saw last night the match, World Cup finals between India and South Africa. And Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma, they both have announced their retirement. They've beautifully, they've done their job. They won the World Cup for India. Now they've announced their retirement. He said a lot of new generation youngsters are there. They will now take over. They move on. This is how life is. We should gracefully move on. Not stick, like gum. That's what is the problem. Attachment is the problem. That's the deadly thing. The reason we suffer is because of attachment. I don't want it to go. Just because you wish that it should not go doesn't mean it will not go. It will go. How will it not go? So therefore, first thing in life, when we live our life, we should do assessment. Swami Ramtita beautifully explains this. He says, all troubles tantamount to, oh, why a lily, not an oak? All troubles tantamount to, oh, why a lily, not an oak? You expect a lily to be an oak to be a lily. You expect the world which is changing to be changeless. It is your madness or the madness of the world? Is it your stupidity or world's stupidity? Obviously ours, not the world's. World means what? It will change. Why are you expecting the world not to change? Or if at all it changes, it will change according to you. Who are you to decide all this? First thing you do assessment. No, in any relationship, any contact, we should have assessment. I'm going to be teaching this chapter to this particular audience. Is it youngsters, middle age, old people, or mixture? Then accordingly, you discuss the examples, etc. Isn't it? Because you've done the assessment. So, if you don't do assessment or do wrong assessment, then you will have undue expectations. And therefore, you will definitely have disappointment. This will lead to disappointment. But if you have right assessment, you will have right expectations and you will not have disappointment. So therefore, you are supposed to assess. So when you understand about yourself and the other people, the content is what? Gunas. Isn't it? Every one of us have different gunas. The content is slightly different. Mixture. So this content through this container enlivened by the consciousness is relating with that content expressing through another container enlivened by the consciousness is relating with each other. So you do the assessment, you move on. You understand? You should not become dependent. They do that, no? Even in any sport for that matter. For example, in cricket, 11 players are selected. They have another 4 extra players selected as substitutes. Because anything can go wrong with them, injury. So this follows. In case something goes wrong with more, they have reserve players also. 4 5 reserve players already kept. Yesterday, some of the reserve players were already traveling in West Indies. They were already there. Because otherwise it takes so much time to go there. So already those fellows have gone. They got accustomed to that weather and everything. So they are ready in case they have to play. This is called assessment. This is what you are supposed to do with your life. We don't do it. That's the problem. See, when we sit and think and discuss, it seems very simple. But when it comes to practical application, we don't do it. And then we will go to astrologer. Is it because of this star or that star? Or what is this? You know. So, therefore, this is a very practical verse. Very often quoted shloka, this also. So, why are we going through stress? See, whenever we go through stress, most of the time or major portion of our stress area comes from our indiscipline, our lack of assessment or wrong assessment. It's mainly caused by us. Very rarely, some of them are due to certain other factors. Like for example, Swamiji has one very interesting, habit. He, until recently, he was driving. I think even now he was driving in the, not now when I say, but a few months ago, he was driving within the campus. As much as possible, he says one has to be independent, self-reliant. And he says, when your fuel tank indicator shows half tank full, you take it to the petrol station, fill it up, make it full. Don't leave it. What do we do generally? We don't fill it. Even when it comes to quarter, no. It will go to that E. And then the petrol symbol will be blinking. You don't know when it will stop. And you're looking for a petrol station, nothing to be seen. You go through stress, your BP increases. Why do you want to do this? We wait till the last minute to pay our bills. And then something happens, the laptop doesn't work, phone doesn't work, you can't pay, then you pay it with fine. We don't do proper assessment. Anything can go wrong, no? Why not I do it 1 or 2 days before? Why? You want to put the petrol and you go to the fuel station, suddenly you will see there's a big queue or maybe something wrong, the this thing is not working, or there is strike, and you will be in stress. So what he's saying, you are born in this world. Now, relative sense, this individual as Jiva, you are here. Then make an assessment, proper assessment. When you do proper assessment, then there is no disappointment. When you don't do proper assessment and then you have disappointment, and then to blame on somebody else, especially the stars, isn't that stupidity? That's why Swami Rampita says, all grumbling is tantamount to why a lily not an oak. Expecting things, body should not die. Or if at all, we have our own understanding. 90, 95, 85, 90, 95 is okay. But 20, 15, that doesn't mean you go and ask somebody, oh, you have reached 20, you still not died. Not like that. Understand, this is how this happens. When there is a change in the resultant of your thoughts, there's a demand for the new body. So the change happens. That's how it works. So when you understand this, you will not become dependent on anything mithya, anything changing. You'll go along with it, but you will not become dependent on it. So when you understand that this body, mind, intellect complex, this world is in a constant flux of change, you will function in it. You will work through it, but you will never become dependent on it. You will always mentally be independent of it. You understand? In spite of, see, you can draw so much of information from these shlokas. Even in life, when we act, there are so many factors because of which the results come. Even yesterday, in the match, the opposite team, South Africa, they played. They needed 30 runs in 30 balls. They should have won it. They could have easily won, but they lost it. Suddenly changed. Who knows? You understand? Therefore, don't become dependent on those things, results, etc. Just keep doing what is in your hands. That's what these shlokas are teaching us directly, indirectly. Rely on factors which are reliable. Why do you want to do this? And then suffer and then blame. They are inevitable. Meaning, this change is inevitable. Everything has to change except Atman. The pure consciousness is what is changeless. Everything changes. You have name, it will be taken away. Your name, fame, power, position, everything is constantly changing. You cannot have that name all the time. You know, in life, we all work so much to attain a particular status. And once you have attained a status, retaining that status quo is even more stressful if you get attached. For example, now India has become the world champions in cricket, in T20. Now, after 2 years, I think they'll play again. I don't know where they're playing. Now there's world champions, world champions, world champions everywhere. So in every match, you'll have tension because you're a world champion if you attach to it. Oh, we must beat them, we must beat them. And once you get attached, you will be finished. To that extent, you won't be able to function freely. Our productivity will suffer, obviously. We had put in effort and we have won this match, but it is changing. So, okay, you enjoyed those moments, you got the cup, you enjoyed all that, forget it. Next match, you should start as if you are playing the very first match. Whichever match it may be. That's how we should live in life. But that's not what happens. I'm a world champion, no? So you want to retain that status quo without understanding that Arey Baba stupid. They will constantly change. only thing that is permanent, changeless is Atman. There's this beautiful poem called Even This Shall Pass Away by Theodore Tilton. He says there was a king in Persia. He was wearing a ring, and on the ring, 5 words were engraved. Even this shall pass away. So these 5 words were there, constantly giving him wisdom. So he was always grounded. He never got excited, nor dejected. So the poet says, once in Persia reigned a king who, upon a signet ring, graved a maxim, change and wise, fit for every change and chance, even this shall pass away. Solemn words, and these were the, even this shall pass away. And he was all the time philosophizing, not because he was not successful in life. Generally this happens. When failure comes, we all philosophize. In success, hardly anybody philosophizes. Like Sant Kabir says, no, dukh mein simran sab kare, sukh mein kare na koi. But here, this king of Persia was philosophizing not because his country was in doldrums. His country was very, very wealthy. Wealth was coming through the mines, and he had gold mines, coal mines, all kinds of resources. And constantly wealth was flowing in from import-export also. A lot of export, he was getting a lot of wealth. So he was wealthy. And when he would say, what is wealth? Even this shall pass. Oh, okay, he was wealthy, but he had no friends. That's why he was philosophizing. No, he had a lot of friends. With friends, he used to have a lot of fun. But he will say, pleasure comes, but not to stay. Even this shall pass. Oh, he was enjoying because he's a bachelor, he's not married. Let him get married, let's see. He gets married. And he philosophizes to himself. He doesn't tell his wife. He's telling to himself, woman fairer ever seen was the bride. He crowned as queen. Though no monarch has ever pressed a fairer bosom to his breast, mortal flesh must come to clay. Even this shall pass away. He says, he's not telling his wife, he's a smart fellow. He's telling himself, mortal flesh must come to clay, even this shall pass away. And even though he did not have any jealousy or anything to conquer other countries, there are other fellows thinking him to be his enemy, their enemy. So they were trying to fight with him and annex his kingdom. So there used to be a lot of war. Once in a while, they used to try to invade his country. So he used to go to battle, and he was, in the battle, wounded many times. And he would say, what is pain? Even this shall pass away. He was a very, very famous fellow because he did a lot of good to his countrymen. So he was very popular. He got a lot of fame. So his countrymen, citizens, had pulled in money and erected a huge statue. 40 cubits in the air, he says, in the poem. Such a huge statue was erected. He did not give money for that. He did not give money to erect his own statue. That's what generally some people do. He didn't do all that. He was not attached to name and fame. But he was very popular, very famous. Because he was a good king to his subjects. So he was very popular. Fame. He would say, what is fame? A slow decay. Even this shall pass away. Isn't it? See, when we all grow up in the family, you will see some photos of your grandfather or great-grandfather. Great-grandfather, great-grandmother, grandfather, grandmother, if they were not alive. Then slowly you will see great-grandfather, great-grandmother's photo go to Kabaddi Wala. Then grandfather, grandmother. Then slowly your father, your mother comes there. A grandfather, grandmother photo goes to Kabaddi Wala. or Google nowadays goes to the Google storage. Everything constantly changes. That's life. Like Lord Tennyson says, old order changeth, yielding place to the new. So you got to move gracefully, not get stuck and grieve. A wise person moves gracefully. They don't get stuck. That's what he's teaching us here. You are getting stuck. This is inevitable. Why you want to fight with it? Huh? You can't change it. I can't change it. That's the law. Everything in this world is in a constant flux of change. You can't make that which is changing to be changeless. You are expecting it not to change or change according to you. How will it happen like that? That is not possible. So you understand it. He's saying, this is inevitable. Accept it gracefully. And don't value that. Be in the present. That's what he's saying beautifully. Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityuhu. He means indeed. It gives, strength to that word. What he's trying to communicate, it gives strength to that. Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityuhu. Certain indeed. Indeed, certain indeed. You cannot change it. Even if Bhagwan were to take manifestation, come as an avatara, that body which apparently came as an avatara will also have to go through this cycle. Nothing is an exemption. Nothing is an exception. Not possible. So then why you want to fight with it? In this world, which is nothing but change, everything changes. So be in the present, be in that moment, identifying with that consciousness, gracefully move from one container to another container, and slowly put in efforts to exhaust the content, which is the vasanas. Because we've seen that equation before now. God plus vasanas equals human beings. Human beings minus vasanas equals God. So when you understand this whole picture, what are we supposed to do in life? Beautifully move from one container to another. See, container is not just this physical body, environment, situation, everything. You move from one room to another, move from your house to office, office to home, etc., etc. Keep moving. Though it is a little bit of an inauspicious example in the context, I always love that slogan of that alcohol brand called Johnny Walker. The slogan is, Johnny Walker, keep walking. You got to keep moving, not get stuck. When you have this knowledge, you will not get stuck. Don't have this knowledge, then you will get stuck. Then you will suffer. So if you gain this knowledge, clearly understand your personality as 3C personality. In this, we saw so many pointers about the consciousness. Then, in this relative sense, this consciousness is, working through the other 2C, which is container and content. And then this thing goes on and on and on. And container keeps changing. And I am supposed to work on the content using the new containers to keep on reducing the content. And ultimately, exhaust all the content. Then there won't be any requirement for any new container. What remains thereafter is only consciousness. That's all we are supposed to do. But instead of doing this, we do everything else. And then we blame so many people, including God. Hey, Bhagavan, why are you doing like this? Why are you playing with me? We get satisfaction. So, very, very interesting shlokas. He says, assess, Do not have undue expectations. Then you will have your expectations, correct expectations. You fulfill it, you will not be disappointed. That's how you're supposed to live. Let's conclude. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.